Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the December 2016 webinar of the IEEE Technical Committee on Agricultural Robotics and Automation. Today, we are pleased and honored to have Professor Yasir Khan from the University of Central Punjab in Pakistan, who is going to talk to us about the work that his team is doing on automated weed detection in crops using flying robots. It's a very timely topic. It's a line of work in agricultural robotics that a number of people are doing all over the world, where the idea is, of course, to detect and eliminate weeds using as little pesticide as possible. And it starts by detecting where they are. And the work that we are going to learn about today is about using unmanned aerial vehicles or flying robots or drones, however you want to call them, to detect the weeds that can later be, and that the results can later be used to eliminate them. And the results that we're going to see today involve a number of different mathematical techniques to find the weeds, and accuracies that, in the best case scenario, get very close to perfect when it comes to finding the weeds. Professor Yasir Khan, he is from Pakistan. He currently teaches at the University of Central Punjab in Pakistan. But he got his PhD at the University of Tübingen in Germany back in 2013, working on detection of terrain for flying and ground robots. And he's the founder of the Fast and New Robotics Lab that's promoting robotics in Pakistan. And he's our second speaker, in fact, from Pakistan this year. And we, of course, are pleased not only to have him on board, but also to add to our list of countries who have presented in the webinar thus far. So with that, Professor Yasir, thank you very much for making the presentation today. And let's see that if the presentation gets to you. I'm passing the presentation rights to you right now. Ashar, did you get the invitation to present? Okay, Ashar, we may have been having technology problems here. I passed the presentation rights to you, but Join Me says you declined it. So I'm trying again. Ashar or Yasir, are you guys there? You may have your phone on mute. You have to unmute. Ashar or Yasir, do we have you guys there? So thank you for the patience, folks. We seem to be having some technical difficulties here. Let's hope that they will be fixed soon. Yes, or us. Are you on the phone? So Yasir or Ashar, I do have the presentation here. and I can show it, but we need you guys to be on the phone. Frank, can you confirm if you have if you can see the presentation now on the screen?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, thank you. Yasser or Ashar, are you guys on the phone? Apologies for the technical difficulties here, folks. Someone seems to be coming in and out of the group. It may be the folks in Yasser's lab. Ashar, I can read your messages on the board. Are you on the phone? If you would please just come in on the phone. Yasser, I see you on the participants list.
Hi, Marcel.
Good morning. Yasser?
Good morning, Marcel.
Yes.
Evening.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. I see you on the participants list. Should I give presentation rights to you?
Yes.
Okay, you're the presenter now.
Okay.
I'm going to mute my phone to avoid the echo. Okay, Yasser, we've already made the introduction. You can jump right on the presentation so we don't get late.
Yes, let's do that. I'm sorry for the delay. But so my name is Yasin Niaz Khan. I'm an assistant professor at University of Central Punjab. Here I'm also the director of Center of Robotics and Security, codenamed CORAS. We have been working on agricultural robotics for about 3 years now. The first problem that we started working on was weed detection in crops using computer vision. So we have this research group where we have some PhD students, some master students, some research assistants, and a lot of bachelor students who are working on problems related to agricultural robotics and other fields. So I'll move to the next slide. So this is a group which has 5 faculty members, 5 researchers, and more than 50 undergrad students who are working on different projects of robotics, agriculture being one of them, and this is the main area of our focus. So I will introduce the problem, present the problem statement, the methods, experiments, results, comparison, and then I conclude the talk. So what we have focused on the main food crops in Pakistan. So Pakistan is a country which depends a lot on its agriculture. So Pakistan is called an agricultural country. The biggest food crop that we have in Pakistan is wheat. The world over, the biggest food crop is rice, but in Pakistan, people prefer to eat more bread than rice. So we have worked on both of these crops, on rice crops and on wheat crops. Here I will present the work that we have done on rice crops. So as we know, the rice crop is very important. It feeds over 50% of world's population, and the rest of less than 50% uh, consumes wheat or maize or something like that. Pakistan is 13th worldwide in rice production. Pakistan is fourth in rice exports. So we can understand how important is rice in Pakistan, especially for when it comes to exports of the country. Stands second in terms of staple food in Pakistan, as I've already mentioned. Wheat is first food crop in Pakistan, and rice is the second one. It adds 13% to the total value of exports from Pakistan. The rice from Pakistan is popular, and it adds 30%, and it stands third in terms of cultivation area in Pakistan. So you have the total area. So you can see 36% of the cultivated area in Pakistan is wheat, and 9.5% is rice. Since a lot of rice is not eaten here, so a lot of rice is exported from Pakistan. The third largest crop is cotton, and we have actually started working on cotton, and we also have some results from cotton crops. So the problem that we have now is the weed detection and weed control in these food crops and cotton crop as well in the developing countries. And the problem is that we are using manual methods of weeding, which means people go inside the fields or the farmers, they hire other people to help them and they go manually in the fields. They look out for weeds. In some cases, they pluck those weeds out of the ground to remove them. And in other cases, when they decide that there is a lot of weed infestation, they start spraying the crop with some herbicides. If they see some insect infestation, then they start using the pesticides. We have also a way of detecting insects in crops. Talk about weed detection. When we talk about manual weed detection, we can understand that how much time it takes to remove the weed from crops, how many resources it needs, how many people it needs, and the cost associated with them. And uh, the remove weed by hand is not an accurate method. It can leave a lot of weeds inside. Then we have the partially automated solution, in which we use herbicides or we use some biological means, which means genetic modification of seeds or soaking the seeds in some sprays and then seeding them. All of these methods have their disadvantages. In herbicide spray, the problem that we have is that herbicide is sprayed uniformly all across the field. When the infestation is detected, the whole crop is sprayed uniformly, and they do not see which areas need to be sprayed. So mm, we can say from common sense that only those areas which have a weed infestation should be sprayed with herbicide. It has two effects. First of all, it increases the cost of farming. The cost of spraying the whole field uniformly with a lot of herbicide is very costly. And secondly, it also has harmful effects on the health of humans that eat this crop. So when we spray the crop, the harmful effects of the spray, it is basically a poison. So they also get into the wheat or the rice grains, and we consume those things. So it is our goal is twofold. First, reduce the farming cost of the crop and increase the yield of this crop, and secondly, to reduce the effects of overuse of herbicides on the crops. In the biological means, we have the biological spray post of endemic fungus. So there is some kind of fungus which is used to remove the weeds, and in rice especially, where rice is grown in a lot of water, so there is standing water, and then rice plants are planted there. So sometimes a fish is used which can remove the weeds in the crop. So weed is it's difficult to harvest. It has disadvantages of killing. It is uneconomical. It affects crop health. Okay, I guess I'm reconnected. Okay, so it affects crop health. It affects environmental politics and farm education, because when we spray this, and then uh, if there is rain or we water the plants, the herbicides which are left over, they go inside the soil with the water, and they pollute the water, underground water, and create contaminated water. It's very difficult to process that water into drinking water. And the fourth problem that we have seen is that weeds develop resistance to sprays. If a lot of sprays are used, the weeds develop resistance. This is similar to human disease as well. If we use a lot of medicine for a particular disease, the germs of those diseases, they develop some resistance to that medicine. So this is some statistics that I have acquired from the internet. Um, Here we list the number of weed types which have become resistant to herbicides that were used against them. Around 1970s, we can see the number is very small. There are two or three weeds which developed this resistance. But around 2015, we have more than 450 types of weeds which have developed resistance to traditional herbicides. So it is continuous cost for these herbicide companies to do research and develop new kinds of herbicides uh, after the weeds have become resistant to their old herbicides. And this increases the cost of the herbicide and increases the cost for the customer. If we look for crops, for wheat, there are around 73 different types of weeds which are resistant to herbicides. For corn, there are 61, and for rice, there are 51, and so on. So you see the number of weeds which are developing resistance to herbicides is increasing day by day. We have established that weeds are a problem. Weed infestation destroys 15 to 20%, or in some cases up to 15%, 50% of the crop. This number is very serious, because when we say, okay, 15% of the crop is destroyed, then the other argument is, okay, at least 85% of the crop is saved. But we have to see the margin of the farmer, that he incurs some cost in planting and harvesting the crop, and he has some margin. Maybe that margin is 15%, and if 15% of the crop is destroyed, then his margin is gone. So he has no benefit from harvesting that crop. So it is a practice that if the weed infestation or insect infestation increases a certain threshold, then the farmer himself destroys the crop, because then if he let the crop grow to maturity and harvest the crop, there is no use. In fact, he will have a loss because of the cost of the harvesting and other stuff. So it is a practice that farmers do burn their crops when they find out that they will not get any profit margin, rather they will get a loss if they harvest this crop. So we have this problem that uniform spraying is uneconomical. It is very costly. The companies would like to sell as much herbicide as possible to the farmer, thereby increasing its cost. and the control period of wheat is first 40 to 50 days in rice crops. So we take this window into consideration as well, because I have talked to farmers, and we have representatives of these herbicide companies, but they are very busy. So we have to take an appointment 1 month ago, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, so that he comes and he analyzes the crop, and then they recommend us which herbicide to use and what amount to use. So this window of opportunity is small, and we have to make use of this window of opportunity. So what we want to do is we want to do automatic localized weed detection in rice fields to avoid excessive uniform spraying that will result in high good quality yield of production. So what we want to solve is avoid excessive uniform spraying by doing automated localized weed detection. So we want to automate the process. We want to use robots to do this detection. The benefit is that you don't have to call a representative from the company and pay his costs, or you don't have to manually go inside, look at every inch of the field and determine the infestation rate at different areas. That we want to use a flying robot to fly over the crop regularly, let's say every 2 weeks, and analyze the infestation of weeds and pests and everything. And we want to do localized weed detection.
Folks, it seems we may have lost Yasir.
Hello?
Okay, Yasir, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm back. The idea of localized weed detection is that we don't want a general figure for the whole crop, but we want a map of weed infestation of the whole crop, so that the farmer or the pharmaceutical company have an exact idea how much herbicide to use and in which areas to spray it. So this is the area that we are working now, and ultimately we will go towards making flying robots that can also do this spraying. Okay, I guess I'm back. So we want to
Yes.
make flying robots. Yes. Now we want to make flying robots that can give us an accurate map of weed infestation of the crop. And in the future, we want to go towards designing bigger flying robots that can carry the spray and spray the weed in the localized manner. So when we have a map of the infestation, these bigger drones can go and spray in the specific area a specific amount of herbicide, which is the exact amount which is needed. This will reduce the cost, and it will reduce the harmful effects on the crop that is consumed by humans. So this is the concept that we want to apply.
Yes,
That we
sir.
have first, yes.
Excuse me just for a moment. Let's try something slightly different. How about I present here, my bandwidth is probably higher than yours. And you just tell me, go to the next slide, go to the next slide, and I'll manage that.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's try that. Now, let me also remind you, I see you have 69 slides. We only have another 20 minutes, okay? So
I'm not going to present all of the slides. I
Okay.
can reduce the number of slides.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
So why don't we try this? Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can see the presentation.
Okay, very good. So you tell me when to go to the next slide, and I'll do that.
Okay, good. That's nice. Okay, so the idea here is that this drone, it will fly over the crop, it will inspect the crop and give us at the end a map of weed infestation density of the crop. So it will identify in which areas how much crop that we have. So we want to get a video from a camera on board the flying robot. We want to process this using image processing algorithms. And finally, we want to make a map of localized read density. Next slide, please. So this is the initial experimentation that we did. We collected some data set from local rice crops in which we had different types of weeds. Here you can see there are in general two types of weeds. There are narrow leaf weeds and there are broad leaf weeds. The problem with this is that if the crop is narrow leafed and the weed is also narrow leafed, it is very difficult to identify or differentiate the weed from the crop. If the crop is narrow-leaved and the weed is broad-leaved, then it's very easy to identify that. So when we started with this weed detection, we noticed different types of weeds, up to 15 or 20 per crop, and some of them were narrow-leaved and some of them were broad-leaved. And rice, as we know, is a narrow-leaf crop. So it was easy for us to solve the problem of broadleaf crops, broadleaf weeds, but it was very difficult to solve the problem of narrow-leaf weeds in the crop. Next slide, please. So we tried different techniques. We tried three different techniques. One is based on localized FFTs, fast Fourier transforms, and edge detection. Second technique is based on localized entropy, and the third technique is based on wavelet transform. I will present the results in detail, but if we look at the results that we have, so the accuracy that we achieved was the best for this wavelet transform technique that we applied. And the false positive rate is also 17.5%, which is lower than other techniques. So for FFTs, we had 75% accuracy. For entropy-based technique, we had about 76%, and for wavelet transform, we had an accuracy of 89.6%, which is close to 90%, which is an acceptable threshold, considering that here we don't need a lot of accuracy. If you keep in mind the previous methods, the manual methods, that the farmer or his experts, they go inside the field and they manually inspect the meal and they make an estimate. So if we make an estimate which is 90% accurate, I believe we reach the estimate accuracy of the farmer. I guess it is even better than the farmer can predict. Next slide, please. So I present the experimental setup and that's it here. Next slide, please. So for our initial experiments, what we did was that the flying robots we had, they didn't have any enough power on board to do image processing. So what we would do is we would stream the data to a desktop where we would process those images. We had MATLAB, Windows, 4 GB RAM, 4 i5, and the images were taken at a height of 2 to 4 feet. So this was our idea, that we fly the drone low and we get very high resolution images and then we do the detection part. The problem with that is the lower the drone is, the lesser field it is covering and the more it will have to travel. So it will take longer for a flying robot to cover a field. And as we know that the problem with flying robot is their battery time. Most of the flying robots that are available in the market, they have their flying times from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. So we need to utilize this time very efficiently. We have to fly the drone as fast as possible and as high as possible. Because if we fly the drone higher, we will cover more field per, let's say, image, but we will have a bad resolution. So we have to reach a threshold. What we did was we started low so that we initially solved the problem of heat detection. And then we take the flying drone higher and higher and try to determine that threshold where we will have good coverage of the field without losing the accuracy a lot. The angle of capture is 90 degrees, so the camera, it is facing downwards, and image resolution that we got was 1920 by 1080. So we thought that we had flying robots who had flight time of 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and we thought it was less. But the good thing about flying robots is they don't have any hurdles. They don't have to follow any pathways or any roads. They can fly wherever they want. So this 20 minutes is not that less if we consider that a drone can fly anywhere and take any path that it wants over the air. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is our overall technique. We take the video, we extract every nth frame, because if the camera is operating at 30 hertz, it is not possible to process every frame. So we took every nth frame from that. One problem that we had was that the flying robot, we tried to fly the flying robot very fast. That means there were a lot of vibrations, and when we took the video or the images while the robot was moving, so we did not put it to stand still and then take the image. We wanted it to make a fly past to take the images. That introduced a lot of blur in the images. So in our initial experiments, we manually removed the images which had a lot of blur, and we let the images stay which had some amount of blur. But obviously, we cannot do this when we deploy the flying robot in the field. So we developed a technique to detect the amount of blur in the image, and remove those images from the database which have a lot of blur. So we have this blur detection module, which is based on some SVM module, and it removes the blurred images, and it uh, gives the non-blurred images to the next module, which is the weed detection module. And as I said, the wavelet transform, it gives the best result. So this is what here it will happen. The output image, actually, like I said, map of the weed density, not just a figure. So it gives an output map with the density of the weed identified. We then calculate the weed coverage. We combine the information that we have achieved from different images into one map, and then that map is used to identify the localized weed in the crop. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, there we go. So the problem of blur detection was solved by we had the data set of blurred and non-blurred images, labeled images for training. Oh, can you go to slide 21? Thank you. We get the image one by one. We convert the RGB image into gray. We calculate a discrete Laplacian based on the mask that you can see on the slide. We extracted features, some statistical features like min, max, and standard deviation. We trained an SVM batch training based on these features, and we used a linear SVM model to detect the blur. Next slide, please. Okay. And then comes the weed detection module, where we have the input image. We get an excessive green image of the field, because this is our first clue that the crop and the weed, they are mostly green in color. When we talk about this, the weeds in rice crop, so we wanted to use that prior. Then we had wavelet transform, thresholding on diagonal coefficients, inverse wavelet transform dilation. Then we removed small images, and then we get the output images. Next slide, please. So here you can see we have one original image where the crop plants are very small in size, and you can see a lot of ground. And then you can see the crop plants and some wheat plants. The first step is excessive green image that we get. So here we get the green coverage inside the image. Then we get diagonal coefficients, and then diagonal coefficients, we filter them. Next slide, please. This is the dilation step, which increases the segmentation that we have of the weeds. And finally, we have the weed coverage. You can see the original image on the left side and the coverage image on the right side. And here we have the coverage of the green that we have in the field. Next slide, please. So how do we calculate the statistics? We have a total frames of, for example, 1,717. So we take every 10th frame to get 172 frames. This is a simple uh, processing step that I'm listing here. We got non-blurred frames 67. So you see, because of the fast movement of the flying robot, we get a lot of blurred images which have to be moved. Accuracy of blur detection here is around 85%. So still 15% of blurred images will be left inside. We have a false positive rate of blur detection of 18.46%. We have, which means that about 18.46% of the images will be detected falsely detected as blurred images, and they will be removed. Uh, but we can live with this because we are doing a sampling of the data set. Then we have weed detection accuracy, which is 95%. We have a false positive rate of weed detection part, which is 12.7%. So we have a false positive rate of blood detection, which is 18.46%, and false positive rate of uh, weed detection part, which is 12.69%. So the weed detection accuracy after blur removal increases to 76.16%, which is an 8% increase with a false positive ratio of 13.38% after removal of blurred images. Next slide, please. The accuracy in this technique is that the weakness in this technique is that the accuracy drops drastically when texture difference decreases with the growth of the grass. So, like I said, we have narrow leaf weed, and narrow leaf crop. In the start, they are different, but as the crop goes, they become more and more similar, and it becomes increasingly difficult to detect them. Next slide, please. So the second technique that we used is SVM random forest with moments. Next slide, please. I know I have less time, so I'll quickly go through these slides. So this is the data set which is based on density of the crop. Next slide, please. So here we have density-based data set. We extract green channel from RGB. We calculate the mean, variance, kurtosis, and skew, and we calculate also some complex movements. So we have the simple movements and complex movements. Train classified using batch training and calculate n-fold cross validation to validate our results that they are not just some random results. Next slide, please. So here you can see the accuracy that we achieved by using first four movements. If we use the linear kernel in SVM, we get lower accuracy. With RBF, we have improved accuracy, and with random forest, we have improved accuracy. So here we have the best accuracy achieved by RBF kernel SVM with these parameters where C is 8 and D is 0.25, and the accuracy we achieved was 82.8%. 0.22%. Next slide, please. When we switch to complex movements, here we can see that the accuracy we achieve is 81.42% using random forest with a collection of 300 trees. We can see that using the simple movements and using the complex movement, the accuracy is not much different. In one case, it is 82%. The second case, it is 81%. Next slide, please. Here you can see the another statistic. It's too small, you cannot see. Um, let's move to the next. This is the combined movement score. Here you can see the accuracy of combined movements when we combine the first four movements and then we combine the complex movements together. The accuracy increases to 86.06% when we use random forest with 300 trees. Next slide, please. So when we compare the accuracy and execution time, we reach this graph where we have the best accuracy we achieved was 86.606% with random forest, and we had a feature set of movements. So here we can see the linear kernel, the RBF kernel, and the random forest. These are the three types of classifiers that we tried, and we can see the movements feature set as here. Slide, please. Can we go to slide 35?
Yeah, we are on 35. You can speak to it.
Okay. Yeah, this is coming very slow on. Okay, good. So here here is the comparison of execution time. Yeah. The wavelet transform with blur detection, medium features, and then we have the three classifiers, the linear RBF and random wavelet transform here uh, has the least feature extraction time, and you can see it is less by far. Next slide, please. So the strength that we have is we have different densities of grasses, multiple backgrounds, dry soil, muddy soil. Sometimes there is straw, a lot of straw in the, and this is the most difficult one because it introduces a lot of texture in the image, and our techniques are based on texture. So grasses are a common weed in other crops such as cotton. We have some limitations that we have suffered up to now that we are trying to remove now. First technique is dependent on growth stages. So we have to use different algorithms, different parameters for different stages of growth of the field. Then we have threshold of dilation and area removal needs to be determined. It is limited to a single type of weed that we have. I guess the app allocated to me is finished now. So let me stop here and we can maybe carry on with the question answer session.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Despite the technological difficulties, we got to the very end, so this is great. We appreciate your patience and, of course, everybody's patience. So let me open up the conversation for questions from the audience. Please, you can submit questions either on the phone or using the chat window that's from Join Me. And in the meantime, I was going to ask about the execution time here, Yasir. Of course, this is a prototype system, but eventually to fly and do this work in real time, there's going to be some significant work to go down from even 10 or 5 seconds to doing the work in real time. Do you guys have any thoughts about what's the next step in that direction?
Yes, we are actually acquiring more drones, which have more processing on board the drone, and which has quad processors which can work faster. And we are going to lower resolutions of the images because the resolution that I was talking about is 1080 p, which is considered very high resolution. So to reduce the execution time, we would have to go low resolution images, which we are experimenting now.
Very good. There's a question on the chat window from Steve Young. He asks, what has been done to actually control the weeds? The presentation was mostly on monitoring, but this is being done by many people already. And controlling the weeds is the actual challenge. So where are you guys going next from monitoring to control? What are your thoughts?
Like I mentioned, that our first problem was to detect weed density so that we can direct the farmer and the pharmaceutical company to do localized weed spraying instead of uniform spraying, or if they want to manually remove the weed, they can remove it locally. We have contacted with the company which has developed a drone, a flying robot, which has a capacity of carrying 10 liters of liquid. So now we have started working with that company on experiments on using this big quadcopter, to fly it over the field and spray the field ourselves uh, in localized manner with the amount of pesticide, which is herbicide, which is needed in that area.
So would you be spraying from the ground based on coordinates found by the aerial vehicle, or spray from the air? I'm asking because carrying the actual chemicals on the ground is a lot easier than carrying on the air.
We have two scenarios. One is that we carry the liquid in the flying robot and we spray it from the air. If we use a fixed plane, we are talking about uniform spraying. So we are looking at, we are already working on a flying robot, a propeller-based flying robot, which can carry up to 10 liters of spray and spray it. We are also thinking about using a fixed wing robot and control the spraying nozzles that it is using. And the third method that we have is we want to use a combination of a flying robot and a ground vehicle. The ground vehicle carries the liquid, and the flying robot has the mechanism of reloading its payload and spraying it over the field. The problem that we have in Pakistan is that we have no mechanical or automated ways of seeding the crops. So in no case the crop is seeded in rows. We don't have rows of crops in Pakistan. So we cannot develop a robot will go inside the crop and spray it from there. So all of the seeding is done manually by people. It is completely random. So this is a problem in developing countries. We cannot move robots inside the crop once the crop has started growing.
I see. Another question from Steve Young. Khan, do you have access to the chat window on Join Me? You can click on the second icon from the left. There's the phone and then the chat.
Yes, I've clicked it.
Steve has a question about integration of other techniques besides just spraying. Do you see that?
No, I don't see any question.
So he says, how about the integration of other techniques besides just spraying? You mentioned HR weeds as a problem, but just reducing the amounts does not prevent HR weeds from developing. So need an integrated approach. So what are your thoughts there?
Okay, I have not thought about that problem yet. We are talking. We have so far we have been working on reads that can be control and spraying, and where we don't need uniform spraying. But this is a good direction that we would like to see and look forward.
Very good. Any other questions from the audience?
Marcel, could you email me the last question that was asked about those specific types of leads?
Sure. I will copy here the questions from the chat window so you can have them. All right. Yasir, thank you very much for the presentation. This concludes the Ag Robotics webinar series for 2016. We reached our goal of 10 talks, which is great. And just to remind everybody, January is our traditional lightning round, where we are going to have as many PC members presenting as possible. Everybody gets 1 minute, just 1 minute to present one slide. That's the lightning round format. And a call for that will go up in the next few weeks. So be ready, please, by late January, and let's have another successful lightning round with as many presenters as we can get. Thank you, Yasir. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning or night, depending where you are. And to everybody, a happy holiday season and Happy New Year. And I'll see everybody back in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel, for the opportunity to talk to you.